Hey, Rio, ladies and gentlemen, Sunday. So usually we hold off on doing NBA until football's over, but with the Packers losing, football's over. No, I'm just kidding. We got a free time today, so let's talk a little NBA on Sunday, the 31st of January, and just kind of making this part of the regular rotation moving forward.
Yeah, excited to start breaking out Sunday NBA. One of my favorite NBA days. We got a nice four-gamer tonight.
Yeah, you like Sundays because they get weird a lot of times, and you like to get weird with it. So it falls right into like your pattern of how you like to look at things. Sundays do have a tendency. Like I said, a lot of these guys were out the night before. Not always the most predictable of the days.
Agreed.
All right, guys. So don't forget to check out our boys over at Drafters. We'll be featuring them a couple times a week. We've been doing a lot of drafts with our friends over here. Give them a look. It's fun. It's daily snake drafts. They are available for you. And the 5-pack promotion of the day is going to be a $50 reimbursement to all new annual customers today. That is one full calendar year of baseball, basketball, and football. It works out to just over $13 per month after you get your rebate. That is one of the better deals we offer. Sign up today and get access to NBA tonight.
Let's get it.
Day passes are up. I know not all guys take advantage of talking about NBA on Sunday. So if you want a day pass, they are available through the website. Subscribe to the station if you are new to it. And let's go through with our typical format today, starting with cash game lock of the day is going to be Kevin Durant of the Brooklyn Nets. By now, most of you guys know they ruled out the beard. There'll be no James Harden today. Seems like they're going to be staggering their older superstars a little bit this year with some of these phantom injuries is kind of my guess because they're very capable of winning without them. Today's the day with no James Harden, which means that you're going to be looking at the big name players from the Brooklyn Nets, a game that should have plenty of offense, not a lot of defense. KD is a lock for me in cash games. Run him at the 3, run him at the 4. It doesn't really matter. Run him at the forward position, whatever you want to do. He's just a good all-around play with no James Harden today. If you look for things like this, KD back in Washington where he grew up playing against his former coach. I don't know if those things matter to me, but if you look for things like that, that's just the extra feather in your cap for what's already a really good spot for one of the game's best players.
Also going against his old buddy, Russell Westbrook. Gotta like that. So you mentioned that it seems like they're going to be resting one of their studs every day to kind of, balance it out. And I've heard that that's definitely a plan until the buyout market opens up and they can kind of fill out their bench with players that they can actually use. So I'm with that. Whenever you get one of these guys out, the other two become wildly in play. And at 10-1, with no Harden, Durant just is in a smash spot here. Washington will not be able to stop him. If this game stays close, it's hard to see him not just cruising into value in all formats.
So, I mean, Durant would be in play at this price tag versus, virtually any team out there, even good teams, because it's Kevin Durant. He can boogie on anybody. But against a smash spot like, Washington, it's hard not to play him.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of his buddy Russell Westbrook, I know you're looking at him for GPPs today, and I think there's some reasons that this one really holds merit, specifically the fact that I think Kyrie and KD get a lot of the stud love today because there is no James Harden. They're going up against Washington. They make a lot of sense, which is going to make Westbrook, you're not going to get him at 1%, but he's going to be lower owned than he probably would be on a normal 4-game slate because those studs are in play and it's hard to get to him. Also, he's been on that minutes restriction, but the last 2 games he's lost run due to ejection and the blowout. I don't know. I haven't heard anything firm and concrete, but I don't look at him as a guy on a minutes restriction right now. I could be wrong about that, but it seems like we see that the same.
We do. We also, the Wizards have played awful. You mentioned it. They haven't won in like a month. Now, a lot of that is COVID reasons. They didn't play for a while, but this team is desperate for wins. They didn't trade for Russell Westbrook, trying to lose every game. I think if they don't start winning games soon, you might see some trades being made. And I know that Westbrook and Beal are guys that have a lot of pride. I expect a really good effort from the Wizards here. And you're right. I'm hoping that a lot of people look at that last game in the minutes and think it's a trend when in reality he got ejected. Love Westbrook in this spot. Mentioned it with KD going against his old buddy. Well, Westbrook's in the same spot. Even with more to prove, I like him a ton here at 9K.
And I would assume he's going to be lower owned than Kyrie.
Got to imagine so.
Okay. I mean, is anybody going to be flabbergasted if Westbrook outscores Kyrie by 5 to 10 points today? I wouldn't be.
No, not at all.
Now, if you're playing cash games and you want to get to Kyrie, absolutely understand it. I expect him to be more popular, and he's also a good play on paper. He makes sense. But, if you're just trying to switch it up a little bit, this play makes sense to me. All right. Let's move over to a mutual favorite play of the day. Let's take a look at your Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the helpless and hopeless Minnesota Timberwolves. This is one of our mutual favorite players for the day. And again, it's going to be tough to get to him because every spot's at a premium today. For a 4-game slate that we've really kind of pushed down to like 3 games that we're really interested in checking out, there's a lot of plays for a smaller slate in this one. So as much as we like Collin Sexton, it's not easy to get to mid-tier guys today because there are studs that are really, really desirable. Clearly we know the Minnesota defense it's trash. It's awful. It's nothing that's scary in the slightest. I do enjoy the fact that Collin Sexton has shooting guard eligibility, which helps a lot. His pricing is a little down right now. If you look through the last week or two, there's been some blowouts. He had a bad game. I think he was dealing with a little bit of an injury for a hot minute. That's not an issue anymore. But just go back about 10, 14 days and look at some of the production that he had been offering, which is a lot more of the player that he can be, especially in a smash spot against a really, really bad Timberwolves team.
Yeah, a lot to like here. Again, in one of the best matchups in basketball. Love your point that the price is down. I mean, you look at the numbers. He's averaging over cash game value in this spot now in a premier matchup. A ton to like about Sexton here. A lot to like about the Cavs overall. And Sexton's probably their top piece at this price point. Just in a great spot, a guy that's been good all year, and no reason not to like him today, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's nothing scary about the backcourt defense of the Minnesota Timberwolves, especially if D'Angelo Russell plays. Great offensive player, but not much of a defensive player, to say the least about him. And this is one of those guys that, like, the trend is down, but the trend is down for a couple of logical reasons. They played a terrible game against the Boston Celtics, which, when running on all cylinders, are a really good basketball team. They played a bad game against New York. Okay, bad games happen. The Knicks have played some good games this year. There's no shame in just having a bad game. This Cleveland team is young. They're going to show some inconsistencies. They're going to look really good some days. They played a tough game against the Lakers just the other day. Well, then they played a terrible game against the Knicks. So be it. That's actually great for us today because it kept its price tag down a little bit against a really, really bad Minnesota team.
Amen.
All right, next up, I'm going to take a look at Isaac Okoro, also of your Cleveland Cavaliers. So this is my long shot of the day, and there's a couple of things in play right here. One specifically is the fact that when we went through some sample builds on the members-only video, a pay-down spot at power forward is a big help today. Or at the 3. He's available at both. Assuming you're playing Kevin Durant in this situation, it doesn't really matter where you put Isaac Okoro. You just need a pay-down option at the forward position. So Okoro is not a great DFS player, but clearly your Cavaliers like him because he plays big minutes every single day. We've already mentioned what a crush spot Minnesota is. We need a cheap forward, and he fills in there. And while he doesn't give monster DFS points every single day, he does play a buttload of minutes. And if you're ever looking for upside, it's just easier to get it out of a guy out there for more time. He will have a big game someday. You know what I mean? Big game, not like a Kevin Durant big game, but a 30, 35 DK point game because he'll run into a couple of steals. He is averaging almost a steal and a half per game, so he's not bad right there. He doesn't shoot a lot because Sexton and Garland and Chetty and Drummond and the boys take most of the shots, but he is capable of hitting a 3-pointer. Maybe he hits an early 3 or 2 and it gets him rolling with some confidence. He plays a lot of minutes. He plays a lot of minutes against a bad team today, and he's under 4K.
He's an elite defender, so those minutes are secure. The reason the Cavs took him so high was because of his defensive ability. So while that doesn't translate itself into DFS, his minutes are secure. I mean, you look through his game log, he plays 35 minutes about every damn game. And again, you mentioned it. He's not a great DFS player, but this is a great spot to walk into DFS points. All of a sudden, if he hits a couple shots early, he's starting to feel confident. It's not like he hasn't ever succeeded at this price point. He's got multiple games of 20+. He's averaging 17 here, which obviously is not winning you anything, but it's not losing you anything either. All of a sudden, if he gets that 25, you want him tonight.
Yeah, I'm playing around with this one. I don't want 17 points off of 3,900. That's a little bit of a letdown. You guys know it. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. But I can win my cash games with a 17-point performance right here. And he's in a good spot to exceed that because Minnesota's a bad team. He does get to at least double digits every single day. So you have to feel a little bit safe about that. And I mean, we're looking for the upside, but there aren't a lot of like quote unquote safe, cheap guys yet today. Now that may change. We know that it's an evolving organism with NBA DFS every single day, but as it stands right now, we're not loaded with crush plays. There's a couple guys on the Nets that are going to be in play, but none of them are 100% safe or anything like that.
No, not even close, especially when we talked at the end on a Sunday. I don't know. We talk about a lot, especially on our members only video, these guys like Bobby Portis, Rondo, that will put up DFS points. It's just a matter of whether they'll get the minutes. And those are the guys I like targeting in tournaments. However, you can't only look at those guys because their floors are so low. The nice thing about Okoro is he's got a really nice floor because of the minutes he's going to play in a spot like this. I'd be surprised if he ended up under that 17 he averages here.
Yeah, and even if he does, it's only going to be by a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm with you there.
All right, next up, your long shot of the day. So we're going to go over to this Orlando-Toronto game, and you're going to talk about a pet project of yours since he's been your boy since that fateful night a couple of years back when he dropped that 80 spot at 2% owned and brought home a few dollars for you, if I remember correctly. Aaron Gordon. So we talked about this game a lot on Members Only, and the Washington Nets game is going to get a lot of attention, and the last game will get some attention. This Orlando-Toronto game is not a bad game for DFS, but it's going to go under the radar. So there's a variety of guys that we have a little GPP interest in right here.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to bring him up as an overall point that we like this game. Gordon at 7K coming off 2 less than stellar performances, but we know he's got big upside at this price. You know, he started to play that point forward role recently. His assist numbers have jumped, but more than Gordon himself, again, you touched on it. This game as a whole has a lot of appeal. The usage in this game is very defined. You've got the guys on Orlando. You've got multiple guys on Toronto hurt. On these small slates, these 4-game slates, and as far as we're concerned, the first game is more or less a cross-out. We're looking at it as a 3-game slate. I think this game gets overlooked more than either of the other 2 games, and I think the upside on this game might be the highest because that usage is defined. The price tags are really favorable here. You can stack this game with all the best players and still have money to spend. I think it's an alternate path on a slate that seems very easy to build with the guys from Brooklyn, and those guys are the best plays on paper. But I'm interested in that different route and going with a pretty heavy stack of this game, which I don't think gets a lot of love. And you touched on it. All of a sudden, if Brooklyn rolls and Cleveland, Minnesota is just a really ugly game, which isn't.
And they play tomorrow.
Yeah, and those 2 teams play again tomorrow. Like, not crazy at all to think this game is like 110. I mean, and if I were going to pick one game to go to overtime, I mean, obviously any game could, most games won't. It would be this game.
Without looking at the spreads today, I could definitely see this game being, I actually like the Pacers Philly to be very competitive as well, but I like this game more from a DFS perspective because both Philly and Indiana can play good defense. And that's a game I expect both teams to play hard. And while I'm sure a player or two will, arrive at decent value in that game, I don't expect really anybody to go off right there. I could see 3, 4, 5 people from this game having solid cash game value, teetering into GPP value. And if those other games just don't work out as well, there could be some nice value in this game.
Philly, Indiana is definitely the game that's most likely to be the closest and go to overtime. However, it's also by far the least likely to be up and down at a really fast pace with a lot of turnovers. So even if you got overtime in that Philly-Indiana game, I don't even think it would be that good for fantasy. Obviously, it would help a lot, but this game has a ton of appeal. I think you see turnovers. I think you see a really fast pace, and I'm digging it.
All right, guys, that's what we got for today. Thank you very much for watching. Best of luck on your Sunday excursion into the world of NBA DFS, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.